You see it all the time in Nairobi, right? Someone's struggling one day, and the next, they're rolling in a new G-Wagon, and you hear the whispers, wash, wash. Well, today, we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to follow the dirty money, from its shadiest origins all the way to the shiny new apartments and businesses it builds. Let's get into it.
So, yeah, you've definitely heard the term wash wash thrown around, and it probably brings to mind all these images of flashy lifestyles, exclusive parties, maybe even guys in a dark room literally printing fake cash. But is that what's really going on? What are we actually talking about here?
Okay, so let's get one thing straight right away. The real big-time wash isn't about printing fake money. No. It's about cleaning real money. We're talking about the sophisticated art of money laundering, taking cash that comes from some seriously illegal stuff and making it look so clean, so legitimate, that you can deposit it, invest it, and spend it without anyone batting an eye. Right, so before you can wash the money, you got to get it dirty in the first place. So where does this tidal wave of illicit cash even come from? Well, according to our sources, it's pretty much the usual suspects, just on a massive scale. We're talking huge government corruption, major corporate fraud, the international drug trade, and of course the incredibly popular gold and mineral scams that are practically a cottage industry in the city. These are the giant taps pouring out billions that need a good, hard scrub. Now, of all these sources, the one our source really zeroes in on is something they call budgeted corruption. This isn't just someone stealing from the cookie jar. This is literally building the theft into the budget of huge state projects from the very beginning. And the poster child for this? The Standard Gauge Railway, the SGR.
Let's just follow the numbers here, because it's wild. The initial plan for the SGR, when it was going to be a private project running all the way from Mombasa to Malaba, had a price tag of about 50 billion Kenyan shillings. A lot of money for sure, but a clear number.
But then, the government took over. And suddenly, the cost for just the first section, just from Mombasa to Nairobi, ballooned to 325 billion shillings. I mean, that's over a 400% jump for just a piece of the original route.
And they weren't done. The price got revised again, soaring past 625 billion. So think about that. We went from a 50 billion plan for the whole thing to a 625 billion reality for just a part of it. That giant gap, that's the dirty money. That's the cash that's been siphoned off and now desperately needs to be cleaned.
And this quote from our source really hits the nail on the head. The argument is that this wasn't just a bigger loan from China. The allegation is that a huge chunk of that inflated cost was taken directly from Kenyan public funds. And now you have this massive mountain of cash that you can't just put in a bank, right? It would set off every alarm bell. It has to be laundered.
Okay, so you've got your pile of cash, hundreds of billions of it, you can't spend it, you can't invest it. This is where the whole wash machine really fires up. The money has to go through the wash cycle. Let's break down exactly how that works.
It's a classic recipe, really, with three main steps. First, there's placement. That's just getting the dirty cash into the financial system somehow. Then comes the really clever part, layering. This is where you spin a complex web to hide where the money came from. And finally, integration. That's when the squeaky clean money comes back into the real economy, ready to be used.
Now layering, this is where the magic happens. The whole point is to create a paper trail so long, so complicated, and so confusing that it becomes almost impossible for anyone to trace that money back to its dirty source.
And in Nairobi, man, they get creative. We're talking about cash-heavy businesses like transport companies and hotels. Or think about a huge music festival with massively inflated expenses. You can also buy luxury goods, super expensive watches, art that are easy to move around. And all of this is usually done through a maze of fake or shell companies to make it even harder to track. So let's take that concert example. An organizer says the whole thing costs 200 million. Okay, they pay the artist a legitimate 80 million. They spend another 20 million on the venue and logistics. But that other 100 million? That's the dirty money. It gets spent on fake invoices to shell companies they own. On paper, it all looks like normal business. The money is now clean.
So, while government corruption creates one massive river of dirty money, there's another famous source that generates cash that needs washing: the gold scam racket. This has become one of Nairobi's most notorious exports.
The scam itself is brutally simple but super effective. The scammers find a foreign buyer and show them a real sample of pure gold. The buyer gets it tested, sees it's legit, and gets excited. They wire millions of dollars for the full shipment. But what shows up at their door? A box of worthless metal junk with a thin layer of gold paint. And when they try to sue, they find out the whole system, from customs officials to the courts, is in on the scam.
So you have to wonder, how do people keep falling for this? Well, the source puts it perfectly. You are conned at your point of greed. The scam works because the buyers are also trying to cut corners. They want to get a deal, they want to avoid taxes in their own countries, they want to beat the system. And in the end, the system just beats them harder.
Look, this isn't just a story about flashy criminals and clever financial tricks. This massive flood of dirty money has very real, very tangible effects that are literally changing the face of Nairobi and the lives of everyone who lives there.
And here's where a lot of that money ends up. Check out this number. A staggering 64% of over 1,000 reported money laundering cases in Kenya are tied directly to real estate. The city's property market has become the biggest washing machine of all.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It shows the two different realities in Nairobi. On one side, you've got the average citizen who has to save for years and go through a nightmare mortgage process. And on the other side, you've got the launderer, who just walks in with a suitcase full of cash, buys a whole floor of a new building off plan, and even pays more than the asking price. It completely breaks the market for regular people.
So what's the end result of all this? Well, the fallout is huge. Housing prices get pushed so high that normal people can't afford to live in their own city. You get entire brand new apartment buildings sitting empty. They're not for living in. They're just assets to store clean money. The city's infrastructure, water, sewage, roads, can't keep up. And worst of all, the launderers eventually get into politics so they can write the rules to protect themselves and their stolen money.
So all of this leaves us with one big final question. Nairobi's skyline is growing, for sure. New towers are going up everywhere you look. But when that growth is fueled by dirty money, who is the city actually being built for? And who is the one that truly ends up paying the price?